can tell you that JP Smith is on the line and he joins us now. Mr. Smith, thank you very much for your time. Any developments in trying to end this impasse?
Yes, good morning to you. We thought on Friday that we had pretty much reached an agreement. Myself and the enforcement services had proposed making it clear and explicit what we impound for and what not, so that the work that is done in terms of the National Land Transportation Act is clearly understood by all. That did seem to find favour with the association, who also fundamentally acknowledges that the enforcement is necessary. But it was, however, premised on the fact that the violence would end. Then over the weekend we saw the murder of a law enforcement officer, an attack on a vehicle pound in Delft, where 9 city vehicles and a private vehicle was torched. And this morning a very serious standoff at Orchard's Quarry and at the airport approach road, the taxis attempted to frustrate and interfere with the airport workings and with the Netball World Cup visitors leaving. What I think is actually quite a cynical attempt at damaging South Africa's international reputation.
Yeah.
And 3 more buses burned. So as a consequence, it does appear that there are people within that industry deeply committed to sabotaging any opportunity for progress. There were further meetings with Santaka last night. During the meetings, the police attempted to engage their bodyguards who were carrying assault rifles, contrary to the Firearms Control Act, and Santaka leadership used that as a reason to immediately leave the meeting. So I'm afraid that, somebody said to me over the weekend that we're not dealing with an industry, we're now dealing with a crime syndicate in some aspects of its behavior.
A direct accusation against you, JP Smith, from the COSATU branch in the Western Cape, and they are suggesting that you have got to take responsibility for the chaos that is going on, including this morning some terrible news. A motorist, seemingly, as the statement puts it, was trying to defend themselves. They shot at people who were pelting his vehicle with stones, and a person was killed. So they're saying that they're laying all of this at your door because what is actually happening is a political situation right now.
That's a preposterous comment, and it's the kind of comment that unfortunately is getting us precisely into the problem that we're at, is that there are political opportunists along this process who are trying to turn this into a political matter, precisely like COSATU. We expect little other comment like that from COSATU. It's the kind of line they take with every altercation or every conflict that arises, an attempt to personalize it and turn it into a political matter. But the truth is that we are doing precisely our jobs. There is a piece of legislation called the National Land Transportation Act. It says that we have to take the lives of people on our road and in public transport vehicles seriously, that we have to enforce the law, and when the traffic rules are broken, we have to act on those traffic rules. We have to make sure that we enforce our laws. We are doing that. We are doing it diligently. We're doing exactly what the law says and what we're paid to do. And I don't understand how that becomes the transgression, and that the thuggery, murder, arson, vandalism, disruption, destruction of commuters' rights, critical infrastructure destruction, which are all serious criminal offences, how that suddenly becomes the lesser issue here that everybody that we're expected to look past. I'm afraid COSATU has completely lost its moral compass, and is why they no longer play a meaningful role in South African politics.
A final question to you. My understanding is that this bylaw that has gotten both yourselves and the taxi industry...
So I have to interrupt you. I'm so sorry to do this, but I have explained to Newzroom Afrika and just a minute ago to you, sir, that none of this has anything to do with the bylaw. We're dealing with a National Land Transportation Act. There is no bylaw involved. And I'm becoming distraught at the continuous repeating of this narrative of a bylaw because it's not honest. It's an attempt at distorting the narrative and distorting what's happening, and it's purposeful. And I'm not suggesting purposefulness on your behalf, but definitely on Santaku's behalf, but it doesn't help if the media repeat the misinformation.
All right, so just explain it to us then, perhaps slowly this time around. Are you able to say there is going to be any reversal of whatever is getting the taxi industry hot under the collar? Because if this is a national law that you are implementing, why is it that the city of Cape Town is the only city that is on fire? What about other cities around the country?
That's a very good question. A quick Google search will show you that many other municipalities are impounding vehicles as well. Many. Just go and Google it. You'll find instant results of impoundments all over. And in fact, some conflict between the taxis and the authorities as a consequence. Of course, in those cases, it is not conveniently fueled by a further political agenda dealing with the official opposition nationally and the provincial and local government being in different political hands. There may be that subtext. I'm not going to suggest that. But that is what makes Cape Town different. But municipalities across the country are impounding. And the provisions are in the National Land Transportation Act. It says if you're operating a vehicle without an operating license or contrary to the conditions of that operating license, which includes all other traffic offences, you may be impounded. Now, we issue fines for most offences, but for the more egregious offences, where you are risking the lives of your commuters. And let's remind ourselves what public transport is. It is the safe transport of commuters from one place to another. It cannot be that their lives are irrelevant to you or to Santaku. So they have a right to expect safe transport. If you're driving into oncoming traffic, you're driving through traffic lights, you're driving on the sidewalk, these are not forgivable offences, and those things must be met with appropriate enforcement. Impoundment is an appropriate measure in those circumstances. And nobody in South Africa should be accepting or tolerating or justifying the behaviour of taxis who do that, or worse, when they're held to account, resort to violence in an attempt to prevent them from being held accountable. It's the most appalling behaviour. And it's exactly what is going wrong with our country. So all of us should be unified in calling them out and saying that their behavior is disgraceful. Instead, what we see is a lot of justification and backpedaling and on the matter. So everybody who participates in this debate, you're helping shape the future of what South Africa is going to look like. And the future that this industry, some role players in this industry is trying to create, is an unsustainable one.
All right, JP Smith. Well, at least I've got you correctly on one element, and that is that you are inferring here that because the Western Cape is run by a different political party, and that is perhaps why this is the situation on your part of the region. At least I've got you correct on that part before I part ways with you. Am I correct?
Certainly, when you look at those who have been piling on comment, when role players like the National Minister of Police, when Tony Ehrenreich from COSATU, when the EFF and some other political parties opine politically on this matter, then yes, there is a political dynamic and there is political fuel being thrown onto the fire.
Thank you very much, MMC for Safety and Security in the city of Cape Town. JP Smith, thank you very much for your time. Still to come.